Lazarus. Well. Have to make a confession. I'm sitting in a lobby of a hotel in Lusaka, Zambia, and having just come out of a meeting with a minister, I look a little fanciful this evening, but I didn't have time to get back to the hotel. And I'm also doing this covertly because I don't think I'm technically supposed to be using the lobby to do my media, but fuck it, I'm doing it anyway. And if they come and move me, well, I'll just embarrass them on air. I'm very happy today to be introducing someone quite remarkable, and that's Althea Lucretia Avanzo. And we're calling this segment Surfing Light Language, How Miracles Are Born. And for those of you who don't know, Althea, other than being a secret crush of mine, is also a multidimensional healer and light language channeler whose work bridges the mystical and the cosmic. Born in Milan, Italy, her intuitive and psychic abilities have guided her from a young age, illuminating her path toward becoming a transformational guide for others. And her specialties include channeling light language in various forms, timeline healing, and activating higher dimensional frequencies to assist in humanity's collective ascension. And she collaborates with higher dimensional beings such as a ninth dimensional Pleiadian version of herself and a 12th dimensional mantis being, channeling their wisdom to guide others towards spiritual empowerment. And her mission is deeply rooted in facilitating a profound shift in planetary consciousness and empowering others to embody their highest truth. And you can go to her website, www.althealucretia.com. Follow the links that Christy and the production team will be, and the social media team will be supplying as well. And nothing more to say right now other than to bring Althea in. Very happy to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Althea, you're hailing from Milan, but you're domiciled in the Cape of Southern Africa.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I'm staying in Cape Town. I travel to the States quite a lot, so I move around some Europe, the States, South Africa, but I am based to the side of the world, yes.
Very good. Yes, I saw you recently at I think it was the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And you're headed soon. I think you're doing the burn in Africa, and then you're heading to my territory, to Bali in Indonesia.
Yes, well, I'm doing the burn in the desert here. I'm going to be doing some grid work there. Then I'm actually going to be in Ibiza for about 2 weeks in June. I won't be running workshops there, but I will be doing some one-on-ones, and we'll see. I'm leaving it a little bit open. And then in September, I will be in Bali running a retreat. Yes.
Terrific. Well, later on, at the end of this conversation, Christy will throw up a slide or two, and we can just talk on that again. So let's just dive into it. The rainbow ray spectrum. Your work is deeply connected to the rainbow ray spectrum. I have no idea what it is, so I'm dying for you to explain what the rainbow ray represents energetically and how it influences the way you channel and heal.
Yeah, so basically it's just a vibrational frequency of energetic imprinting that I work with. It's very closely connected to my ninth dimensional Pleiadian being version of myself. And the way that I see it, it's basically almost like this rainbow ray that comes out from my heart center and from my heart chakra, and then it expands. And whenever I'm doing channeling energy work, whether it's on a one-on-one or in a collective setting, it will move through me, and then from me it will branch out and into whoever needs to receive it and whoever it needs to be worked on. It's very interesting because it was given to me, the name of the rainbow ray spectrum, and it actually includes colors that I've never seen here, so that I can't really describe with human words. It's quite interesting when you start accessing these high vibrational frequency spaces and seeing within these different dimensional densities what can actually come through and can be brought through this perfect machine that is the human body. So it's just basically I would say a frequency healing modality that I use.
Fantastic. So in a sense, you're tethered to a super source, and that the frequency set is your umbilical connection to your super source, where you issue from at that level. and that's connected to you in whatever incarnation, in whatever so-called timeline or coordinate you are in the multiverse. That super source umbilical is a unique frequency set. That's what it sounds like to me, that's your umbilical.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And presumably it's connected to you at all times. It's not just something which you can turn on and off. How does that work?
Yeah, no, it's very embodied. I mean, when I first started accessing more parts of my multidimensional self and integrating, you know, more parts of my soul through my karmic experiences and my soul fragments, I would, you know, go in and out. But now I've been at a point, you know, for the past few years where it's just fully embodied. It's part of who I am. That doesn't really have to go on and off, you know.
And I'm going off script here and off my production notes, but at what point do you first become aware of the fact that you are a split soul in the sense that you are in a higher dimensional state watching over your lower dimensional incarnation? When were you first cognitive of that phenomenon in this lifetime?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that, actually. So I mean, I think I always knew. I just didn't know how to put it into words, because I was one of those kids that would be operating like 9 or 10 years old. I would be thrown in like other dimensional densities and have to like shine light from my hands and like clear darkness, you know, and just like automatically start working in these spaces that weren't, you know, what I was taught to believe, that, you know, was just within the 3D realm. So it wasn't done intentionally, like it was automatically done, but it wasn't done with the intention that, you know, I can do it now. I would say that I started having like very big activations around like 27, 28 years old. And that's when I kind of like started really working on, you know, integrating these soul fragments and aspects and part of myself when my channel started opening up, and I started channeling these galactic beings, and I started seeing these different versions of myself. While before, my experience was more closely linked and framed within the fourth dimensional density. So within your astral realm, whether it was the lower or the higher tiers of the astral realm, it was more into that. It started expanding more on a galactic level when I started really channeling in a more conscious way with intention.
Got it. And can you just describe, as you understand, the distinction between the fourth density field and the fifth density?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I understand it and how I operate with them, so, you know, they're all overlapping and all existing at the same time. But so in first dimensional density, something just is. Then you'll have your second dimensional density where it is and it has consciousness of being and it's overlapped. Then you have your 3D, which is where we are operating now, where something is that has consciousness of being and it can now take action. However, it's still limited by the constraints of time and space. So they're limiting. In your 4D, which will be your astral realm, where you have, you know, your lower, your medium, and your higher tiers, you can take action, but you're only limited by space and not by time. So you can manifest instantly, but you still need to walk, fly, navigate, you know, move into places. While when you operate in your 5D dimensional densities and higher, and, you know, as the dimensional density gets higher, the actual like frequency gets lighter, there is no limitation of time and space. So that's kind of like how I understand it. And it's the quantum field. Your 5D and up would be your quantum realm, where for me, for example, when I work with the light language, it operates from the quantum space. So it can actually be programmed beyond the constraints of space and time. So I can work now and someone can receive the codes later, or I can plan them so that they received them yesterday, sort of thing. And they can be wherever in the world, you know, wherever. So that's kind of like how I understand them. And then obviously, you know, you move up and there's all the other densities. Well, it's like, it's lower density, higher frequency. Sometimes the words can be a little bit confusing, I know, but yeah, that's kind of like how I understand and how I work with them.
Very good. And speak about the distinction between the Pleiadian aspect of your super soul, the provenance of where you issue from, the distinction between the Pleiadian element and the mantis element. So the Pleiadian is 9th dimensional, and the mantis is 12th dimensional. Can you just describe, just for the layman, the distinction between these two dimensional states and these entities and their forms? I mean, what a complete distinction between what we envision as a Pleiadian and a mantis being sort of insectoidal. I'm quite confused at the notion that the mantis is a higher dimensional state than the Pleiadian, but I need to be educated.
Yeah. Of course. So when I refer to the density of these beings, I refer to their soul density. So not necessarily to the incarnation or the body or whatever it is that, you know, they exist on a physical level. So how I understand the soul density is different from the dimensional density. So a 9th dimensional Pleiadian being could be existing in 5th dimensional density, but have a soul that has evolved up into like a 9th dimensional density vibrational frequency. So that's kind of like the difference between the two. The way I could say see them or relate to them, the mantis being, I see an actual mantis being, and the mantis is a very neutral. It's not masculine, it's not feminine. It's a very neutral kind of like energy. And the way I work, I say him because he feels a little bit more in the masculine side, but the way I work with him or with this being is I'll actually have the written code and the technology that comes through me. Meanwhile, when I work with my 9th dimensional Pleiadian version of self, it's more of a feminine energy. And the lessons that these two beings have been through are different. And this and the 12th dimensional has evolved more. And the way how I understand the soul experiences is, after you evolve beyond the 6th, you can actually choose whether you want to, create a collective consciousness, like would be your Ra collective or your Christ consciousness, and merge with other souls in order to get closer to source, or you can continue as an individual incarnation, but just operate from these high vibrational frequency spaces. So your soul has evolved that much, but you might be existing, in a 5D or in a density that is different, so that you can still have a body, but also sometimes they're so etheric, or they go in and out of their bodies. It's kind of like if we look at ancient Lemuria and the Lemurian beings before Atlantis. I had a few lifetimes back there as well, and we had physical bodies, but we actually mainly existed in our etheric and astral bodies, but we could go in and out of them. So that was was interesting to experience and to live. And I think a lot of these beings are able to do that.
Very cool, very cool. And how does the energetic frequency of the rainbow ray, going back to that, impact the individuals that you work with? Are there particular challenges or breakthroughs that are unique to this frequency?
I think the fact that it's really, really, really versatile and multidimensional. I think for me, I work very much from a space of surrender. So I surrender and allow for the healing and energy to go where is needed. And I think every individual has a different experience. There is never one healing or one session that I'll do where I won't learn. We consistently learning from each other. It's like a mutual exchange. So it's a heart-based frequency, so it will work a lot through the heart center, but it will go wherever and do whatever is needed for the person at that moment in time.
Very good. And going back to the mantis and the Pleiadian dialectic in your soul, the fabric of your soul, when you're channeling these high dimensional beings, do you perceive their guidance as distinct energies or messages? How do they shape the light language that you share with others?
Yeah, so they will sound a little bit different. So when I work with the mantis, I also work with the Turian technology. So the two technologies sometimes mix, and it will sound different to when I work from my 9th dimensional Pleiadian version of self. So there's definitely a different energetic imprinting and genetic imprinting in the coding of the light language when it comes through, for sure.
Right. And you're talking about, we're going to, I think a little bit later, you're going to demonstrate this to us, but are these different is a different syntax that comes through you? Is the different geometry? How do these imprints or impressions move through you? Is it sound? Is it geometry? Is it number? I'm interested to understand how the messaging actually moves through your intellect and through your consciousness into your mode of expression.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it really moves through my intellect. It's more as like heart based, but it will be sacred geometry. It'll be phonetics. The phonetics themselves merge into the sacred geometry, which then merges into the dimensional density construct of where we are existing. So it really depends. I mean, some people can see them as numbers as well. I've seen channelers who like channel light language and then start saying numbers in between. For me, it's basically the sound will come out of my mouth and the waves of vibrational frequency will create geometry that then sometimes it'll go directly into the DNA structure and activate like in the person. Sometimes it'll go in the field. Sometimes it will dissipate and dissolve in different ways. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, I think it can to a certain point also be subjective to how it's seen from the individual. But that's kind of like how I see it and how it moves through me. Sometimes it's like as simple as movement. Sometimes I'll speak it and it'll come through from my hands, and then through the tips of my fingers, I will activate, and it will almost look like I'm working on like an imaginary computer screen that appears in front of me, this sort of thing. Sometimes it will be expressed through movement. Sometimes I will have codes move up my spinal column and out of my crown. So it's there's really like so many different ways that it comes through, you know.
Very good. And have you had any visitations in the course of your life? Any kind of first contact visitations?
Yeah, so many. Where do I start?
Start at the beginning and make your way slowly to the end, and don't miss anything out in between.
I'll speak about the ones that shaped me mostly,
Yeah.
you know, that were most significant. So one of the first ones that I had was actually just like about 24 hours after a very intense experience with plant medicine. And this was even before I did any of this work. I knew that there were beings out there. When I was 9 years old, I saw on the old box square TVs, I saw a lady that came on for an advert for like a, I don't know, show that was coming on. And she said she was from Pleiades, and something clicked in my brain. And I was like, oh, I'm like also from there, you know, it just activated something. And I was 9. So it was just like really random. And that's when and then I didn't really think too much of it. And then after I had this plant medicine journey, I came home and I was like sitting in my bed, just like meditating and, you know, integrating. And I saw 2 Lyran beings at the foot of my bed. These were 2 soldiers. They were dressed in like beautiful armor. They had feline face and they were holding this like staff. And it was quite interesting because I was seeing them almost in like a translucenty space. Because what I then understood and learned further on in my years is that it's very, very seldom that you're actually able to see beings like that with your naked eye because of the density and the amount of energy that it would take for them to, you know, come into dense 3D. And I think because I was so open from having the plant medicine experience, I could actually, you know, see it in that way. But generally, I will either astral project or remote view, or I'll have, you know, the vision here as I'm in and out. So it'll generally be more here. But I've had quite a few 3D encounters. I've had beings come in my room and try to abduct me. This was back in 2018 when I was in Italy, and I was actually able to stand in my sovereignty, and through going back in time with the QHHT Dolores Cannon method, like a week after I came back and I commanded them to leave. So that was a very, very intense experience that I had. And that's what actually initiated me into more of this, because I was like, I needed a perception switch. I was like, okay, if there's not so good beings, there must be really good beings. Let me try and connect to the ones that are operating from vibrational frequency spaces. So yeah, this is just a few encounters. Yeah,
I love that. I love that because the same happened with me when I was young. I had some pretty grisly demonic encounters and monumental psychic assaults that began for me when I was 9. So forgive me, earlier than 9. I was about 9 years of age, and ended when I was 16 or 17. So it was a period of about 7 years where I was subjected to the most brutal psychic assaults and horrendous things at that level, which I would call demonic interposition. And then having mastered then how to receive and how to transmute and deal with those parasitic forces and energies and elementals, that's what then helped to transmute it into the other, and then being able to have the most unbelievable angelic experiences and meeting with angelic beings and be taken out of body. So I've had this spectrum myself, and I love the fact that you also were given a bitter pill at the front end of your journey to kind of propel you into the great work, because it is great work, and it's clearly why you came here. So you also answered the question, because I was going to ask, does your hyperdimensional capacitance to engage these tremendous intelligences have a counterpoint to it? Are you also subjected to the parasitic demonic forces, and how do you deal with them? I think you pretty much answered that, but are you still assaulted? Do you still find those energetics trying to interpose and trying to hijack in any way?
Well, I mean, I think we live in polarity. But I find that there'll be, based on what's happening with planets and moon and here and there, there'll be phases where you're more prone to psychic attacks. I do still every now and then have to fight like entities in the astral space, but it's always for me to have lessons so that I can share to the collective. So that's why they put me through them now. When I was also 9, 10, 11, 12, I would actually be thrown into spaces where I'd have to perform exorcisms and battle actual demons. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was put into that to build me and to create, so that then now, when I got older, I was like, oh, actually, that was what I was doing, and then I could do more cognitively. But yeah, I think for sure it still happens. Is it part of my daily life? No. Does it really affect me? Not really, because I feel like, you've done it once, you can do it again if it happens.
Yeah, no, there's no question. It's very much like about riding a bicycle. There's no question about that. And that's also why the more you fortify yourself with the armor of God in life. I've not had any demonic or psychic events for well over 20 years. I mean, I'm just completely immunized and inured to the demonic interpossession and psychic assaults. I mean, I have stresses and strains, but I'm so glad that with time and with age, I learned the craft of really cladding myself with that armor of God. And that's also part of the spiritual journey for all of us, isn't it? We really have to learn how to fully, in that sense, inure ourselves against, I don't want to say defend or protect, because I think defense and protectionism are dangerous things. When we go out into the world trying to defend or protect ourselves, in a sense, we're putting signals out, inviting ourselves to be attacked. But I'm just talking about the immanent flame, the innate being of the armor of God. Once we've tapped into that, and we have the capacity to walk, through the shadow of the valley of death, fearing nothing at all. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Do you feel you've arrived at that place yet?
Yeah, they can't touch me. They can't do anything to me. I think once you start operating from a certain vibrational frequency, if they've got nothing to latch onto, then they're not going to be able to. Sorry, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you anymore. If they've got nothing to latch onto, then you really there's nothing for them to latch onto. So you actually become, I would say to an extent, untouchable, because you start operating from this frequency where they've got nothing to go on. I mean, these beings can only attach to you or attack you if they find something that aligns with their frequency within you, and if you've done enough work on yourself, like you clear all of that. And I also find that, exactly as you said, like you want to shield yourself, but only out of love, never out of fear. You don't want to put out the message that you need protection. I think if you start, and I think if you've done this long enough, like you obviously longer than me, but when you've done this for long enough, you don't really have any fear anymore, because you're like, okay. And so when you don't, like, they've got kind of like nothing to go on. For me, sometimes it'll happen that I'll have to do this type of work on clients. So then I will encounter beings, in certain vibrational frequencies, but I always explain to the clients, like, it's really about you. You need to empower yourself. You need to, cut whatever karmic cycle cord or bad habit or whatever it is that in your system that's perpetuating this program that's latching onto you, so there's different ways of seeing it. So I just really teach and work with self-empowerment, and and I think we need to also be mindful of the terminology, because I think there's so much hype around demonic entities and this and that, but it's really just programs and patterns and attachments and behaviors that are perpetuating you into keep on going into that. But if you just take sovereignty and control of your life, then they're just going to fall away.
That's right. Yeah, it's being led by addictions and appetites, essentially, that lead us into that kind of false light aspect of self, the diminished self. And then if we're inhabiting that diminished self, we're completely susceptible to that third party intervention at the subtle realms. I was going to ask you the question actually about your clients and about how many of them are soliciting help to navigate that more subterranean stuff and psychic attacks and what have you, as opposed to clients who want you to guide them into the kind of more ascensionist paradigm. Is there kind of half, or how does it work for you with your client base?
So it's very interesting because as I've evolved as a practitioner, so have the clients that have come through to me. I mainly now actually just train people to do what I do and help them open up to their gifts, psychic vision, psychic intuition, but haven't been through addictive behaviors and patterns and abusive and relationships, both physical and emotional. I help women a lot who've come out of that to reclaim their sovereignty and actually like come back into their power. So that's an aspect that I work with, which is very much rooted within third dimensional density constructs and programs. But other than that, I mainly actually, I get a lot of people who want to learn, and I help them develop their psychic vision, intuition, and I help them, connect more to themselves, the higher version of selves, and to open up more.
In integrating higher frequencies, what is the process of anchoring high dimensional frequency codes, such as those from the Pleiadian and mantis beings, into the third and fourth dimensional matrix? How does this help with raising planetary frequency into the kind of ascension spiral?
So that will help, well, both on an individual and collective level, when I'm doing individual work or collective work, or when I'm doing grid work, when I'll go at like specific energetic spaces, clear the space. I had a very powerful encounter with this. This was actually in Mozambique in 2022, where I had to clear a whole beach that had received, there were mermaids that were massacred. There were about 500 of them. And with the light language, with the codes, like moving through my system and energy field with ritual and with intention, I was able to clear that. So that will definitely assist, the planet. But I think, even if just one person, works on their healing and works on themselves, like that's also assisting the planet. So I would say that, like, I feel very fortunate to feel like I am divinely guided to do this work, like most of us are within this industry. And I'd like to think that, with every action in some way or another, I try to assist the planet and the collective.
And well, it's obvious to me, I've been around longer than you have, and it seems to me it's no question about it that there's a kind of exponential curve into this cosmic, galactic, stellar kind of paradigm. And I've been one of those, I think, somewhat pioneering veterans in the field who were calling it out many, many years ago. And certainly pre-2012, countdown to 2012, for those of us who were around, at the millennium in 2020, and then able to see what that signature represented in the zeitgeist, just hitting the 2000 mark. It was a big thing. It was the millennial thing. And then the countdown to 2012, there was this weird kind of rush towards 2012, where in the collective consciousness there was this notion that we were zeroing in on coming toward a 0 point, which 2012 was at 0 point. We now understand the mathematics of it, and then after that 2012 we survived that weird thing, and that moved on to 2020 actually. This is what I want to ask you about, because what my understanding of time in the end of time was that, and I've worked with all of the greats on this, the Mayans and the Aboriginals and what have you, and my life's been tracking that, and I've physically positioned myself in those places. Like in 2012 I was with the Mayan Council in Chichen Itza, in 2020 with the Aboriginal Council at Uluru, which was really the end of time. And then here we are, 2025 Anno Domini, and hurtling towards 2032, which by best accounts is induction point to the Galactic Confederation of Worlds, so to speak. What is your sense of that? I mean, I've been tracking time, the great fiction of time, but what is your sense of where we're at now, post 2012, and then COVID hitting, and that weirdness that descended like a thrall upon humanity, that fucking insane weird shit that happened, and then passed through us, and as a transmutation. So many of us used that as a transmutative principle, psycho-civilizational transmutation into this, into you, into your generation, into where you're now taking the lead, into the cosmic, the stellar, the galactic realms of how, this earth is just a confluence of all of those incredible realms. What is your sense of time in 2025, and where time takes us? Or have we, in your view, moved beyond its thrall altogether?
Well, I mean, there's definitely been times were definitely like rising rapidly and exponentially. Like, I mean, even just looking on a smaller scale at like the people that were channeling light language when I started, like 7 or 8 years ago, there were maybe like 10, 12 channels online. Now there's like tens of thousands of people that are doing light language online. So just looking at that scale, I do think that what's happening is we are learning to I don't want to use another word. Manipulate has a negative connotation, not really for me, but we are learning to manipulate time. So we are learning to use time to our advantage. So slowing it down or speeding it up. So I think time is becoming more fluid because more of us are operating from our 5D template. So we're operating from this fifth dimensional density. So we are operating beyond space and time. So as a consequence, as a collective, the Earth is moving into a space where time is more fluid.
So that's beautifully stated, that the enactment and the embodiment that we find ourselves now becoming as a higher principle is the very thing that is dissolving the fiction of time. And I think that that's beautiful. I think that's beautifully stated. And I think that's entirely true as well. Time was really there. It was an imagined phenomenon, which anchored us into space and into the idea of finitude, things that have an end to the cycle. Whereas, of course, we now move into the infinitude and a foundational understanding that we are quantum beings, that we cannot be defined by time or by space or even by an incarnation. And that's a powerful place to be. So yes, as the newer generation just expands itself, and probably fucking around with a lot of drugs and a lot of earth medicines probably really helped propel us out of that Victorian straitjacket. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I mean, I think there's definitely been very, very big perception switches for individuals. And I find, like, for example, now for me going to work in the desert in the Karoo, and I because of my channel and and the way I need to maintain my system and energy field, I don't work with mind altering substances. The only substance I work with a little bit is hape, so shamanic tobacco. But other than that, whenever I'm clearing, it will always be from because I have been in those spaces and I have worked with them. So I've embodied and imprinted the frequency within my system, so I can tune in and out of it without actually physically taking anything. But anyway, this brings me into a space of saying, when you go into these collective places where there's a lot of people that are even on a subconscious level accessing these dimensional densities where time is fluid, like their perception is switching, they're opening up, they're expanding. Some of them are not even aware of it, but it's almost like a subconscious mechanism that then starts and puts something in them. And then eventually, like, it doesn't matter how much one tries to oppose it, like they still need to navigate the lesson. We all on this ascension process, we all, walking together, some at a faster speed than others. Some might have to leave and come back. Some might have to repeat the same lessons. But in the end, with the baseline vibrational frequency of the planet rising, like we need to kind of like keep up with it. So I would definitely say that a lot of these mind altering substances and plant medicines and maybe like having them brought to the westernized civilization as assisted in a way. I think we need to obviously be mindful. There's the pros and the cons, like there's a lot of people who abuse, and I've had to do a lot of energy work on people who've come to me after being in sessions with people who aren't able to actually hold the frequency of the medicine, and that can cause more damage than good. But definitely it's like a big subject,
No, it is a big subject, and I mean, you're talking to somebody who's never even chewed a magic mushroom, so I've never had any engagement with alcohol or marijuana or anything. I've never even tried anything ever in my life, and that served me really well, personally. Having said that, I'm a huge advocate of all of those things, and I would fight to the death to protect and preserve people's right to fucking do them as a technology if people need that as a technology. Because I've also done a lot of counseling to people over the years, and I've seen spiritual, so-called spiritual counseling, but and I've seen how these things can be of tremendous consequence as a technology if they're used in the right way. Having said all of that, I also feel that we're coming to the end of that even the need to take these medicines as a stepping stone toward, I think that's also becoming moot. The way that the geometry of light is changing with the influx of the photonic band that's impacting this plane at this time, at this end of time. I think in the next few short years, we move altogether beyond the need even to use these stepping stone technologies to get to our super nature, because the morphogenetic upshift is going to be delivering that benediction, that grace of God is in a sense anchoring to the earth plane in any event at the macro level. That's my very, very deep sense of how we're now moving into this emergence, convergence, this new earth horizon that I see very palpably with these eyes. What is your sense of the world today, in given the collapse of Babylon and the kind of breakdown of governments and of banking systems and of mainstream media and of the status quo, really in a free fall? How positive and affirmative or negative do you feel that this period that we're moving through is right now? I just want to get your take on the status quo today and your sense of the chemistry of where we're at today.
So for me, I generally just try to, first of all, I get told, because of my channel, I don't really do much external research. And I try to hold a neutral frequency when it comes to, cataclysms and polarity and what's happening on Earth. But obviously I'm human, so I still have my own opinions and understandings of what's going on. But when it comes to my teachings, I move away from that just because it's not part of my role to give any energy into the polarity of whatever it is that's going on. I personally love being on Earth at this moment in time. I love humanity. I think we're great. I think we're amazing. I think we're doing beautiful things. I think there's a lot of light. And without spiritually bypassing anything, I like to focus and concentrate on that. There is definitely disruption. There needs to be disruption for rebirth. I think what we're navigating into is integrating technology in a healthy way, which is what we weren't able to do back into ancient Atlantis. So it's going to come down to the individual and to the sovereignty of the individual, just, you know, and to then expand that on a collective level. So, you know, we can't go back to living in the forest in the middle of nowhere. We need to learn to integrate what is coming and how we are evolving in a way that is healthy, balanced, neutral, and that benefits us, and it's of service to others, and it's of service to the community and the collective, and not like it was in Atlantis where, you know, it went for service to self and everything, you know, went down south. So that's kind of like my take on it. Yeah.
No, that's good. I think that's solid. Are you going to walk us through that Merlin wardrobe hanging up behind you? It looks very, very enigmatic. Those items of clothing on that rack. I'm just desperate to have a look at them. And maybe you could do a fashion show for us. And
next episode.
And fine, next episode. And the bookshelf behind you, if you were on a desert island for all eternity, is there one book that you take with you, or is there one mentor that you take with you, or is there one song that you would take with you?
Well, that's a very good question. So the first book that comes to mind is actually 1984 by George Orwell. So that's one of my favorite books. So that would probably be something that I would take with me. I don't know if it could teach me much on a deserted island. Maybe I'd bring like a survival book or something like that. But yeah, I'd have to maybe sit with that one a little bit longer. But yeah, anything I guess that guides you back to self would be a good choice.
Beautiful. So can you share any upcoming projects, workshops, and retreats? Again, just recap on that. And I think Christy's going to pop up a slide or two. And then, yeah, there we go. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, perfect. So I'm running a retreat in Bali from the 13th to the 19th of September. It's going to be a lot of work on activating your galactic blueprint and clearing any timelines that are stopping you from living in your highest alignment, any karmic trauma that you've been carrying, anything from the ancestral lineage, from the matriarchal, patriarchal sides. There'll be a lot of light language activations, and really for everyone who comes, like, you'll be in contact and have access to me 24/7. So anything that, you know, you want to ask, I can just sit and channel for you. And I just ran a Costa Rica one in November of last year. And it's so interesting because 3 people that were there booked for the Bali one. So it was really, really beautiful to see how well that was received. I will also give the option to work with shamanic hape, which is the tobacco. And I find that really helps sometimes in clearing and working on the energy field. And yeah, there'll be a lot. We will travel around Bali. We'll be living in the same space for a whole week. And then, yeah, the retreat includes 4-star accommodation, all vegan meals. And yeah, it'll be lots and lots of fun.
Very good. Delightful. Could you kindly conclude our conversation with offering a light language activation, channeling energies from both the rainbow ray and your higher dimensional collaborations? And this will really help us experience how these frequencies feel in living practice.
Yeah, sure. I'll do a transmission. So you can just close your eyes and start anchoring into the body as you find your comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. And with every exhale, you release all that doesn't serve you anymore. As you relax the body system and energy field, you stay in a space of openness and oneness. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, Gabriel to the west, call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. As we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, we call on our galactic families, Pleiadians, Lyrians, Sirians, Icturians, Andromedans, Mantis beings, Pleiadians, Dragons, Assassines, Amorans, and Atlanteans. And anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good, you're welcome in the space. Kuruai shino to kuroi shirayatra tre kurokuai shinayatra. Opening, opening, opening. Opening systems. Rat krokoi shinatakara tre 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 trakiero kokora ishinayatra. Tre anata tre kokokra tre atraya traya 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 sieto korokora ishinayatra. Opening, opening, opening. Releasing, 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 letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go of all that does not serve you. Opening, opening, expanding, expanding, expanding. More light, divine rays coming in, anchoring, 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 attuning, 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 attuning systems, attuning, attuning, activating, 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 activating blueprint structures, attuning, attuning, attuning. Yo 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 na na. Not ratukura expanding, 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 more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 attuning, 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 aligning, 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 aligning systems. Releasing, 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 releasing. Releasing more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 grounding, 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 balancing, grounding, balancing, balancing, expanding, expanding, opening, 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 na riati koro kora trek eyo ko ka trek kora ke na yet kora ora ter ko narat kre atria tra tre tro to rana yera troko ia ishera krik tenra tre otokoro aishare tre atia to kumra tre anchoring, 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 anchoring. Anchoring, more light, divine rays coming in, attuning, 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 clean, releasing, 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 clean, peripheral, clean, clean, releasing, 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 balancing, 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 aligning, aligning, balancing, aligning, 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 grounding, grounding, aligning, grounding, 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 anchoring, 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 closing, sealing, 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 closing, sealing, sealing, closing, sealing, 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 closing, 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 sealing, sealing, closing, 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 sealing, 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 closing, 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 sealing, 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 closing. You can gently come back to the body or stay in process, whatever feels good for you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Absolutely delightful. I was getting some static on the line here, but when I play the recording back or see it back, I'll get the fluid thing. But fascinating. And how long are your sessions normally with clients?
It really depends. I offer different types of sessions. For a light language session like this, it'll be about 45 minutes. So we'll talk a little bit. I'll channel maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we'll talk a little bit at the end. And then just for everyone who's watching, for the next 2-3 days, you might feel things clear and release. This was a full system clearing and upgrade. And then, yeah, for everything to integrate, it can take up to 3 weeks. So just be mindful. You might feel emotional, like you need to maybe eat more, sleep more, just the general, with energy work. And then I've got sessions that are a little bit longer where I do a bit more coaching as well. I'll do Akashic clearing too if people come to me that want information from previous lifetimes and parallel lives, or connections with family members, loved ones, partners. I'll do that as well. So yeah, I've got different array of sessions on my website with a description.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for that. This is beautiful. And I think that Lazarus Symposium will love learning about this. And hopefully we can take this forward when you get back from your travails. And I'm going to be in touch with you regarding Bali, because you're absolutely not to leave the island until you've gone and spent a bit of time at Akasha, New Earth Haven, at my villa. But Althea, thank you very much for joining Lazarus today. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you for having me.